Welcome to Isn't It Obvious, where things are obvious. That's going to be the intro.
That's going to be the intro forever now.
Right.
Good evening. It is 19th March, 2021, and this is BBC World Service.
That was a good one. BB, he had that nice posh voice, strong and...
Micah doesn't do posh.
How the fuck would I want to do posh? I'm from Minnesota. What, you think I'm going to go with like a New Englander or a, what, mid-Atlantic accent?
Anything that doesn't sound like a Minnesota accent that's from Europe sounds posh to me.
Alright then, Phillip,
Like,
I shall have this accent for the entire evening.
It sounds German and French, and that's just
I
French
am
is
from
fancy
Alsace-Lorraine,
English.
so it is very true that sounds both French and German.
Or maybe you're just from Switzerland.
Do not compare me with
those
those
guys.
Swiss Nazi pigs. Next you'll say I'm Italian. My hands are very stiff when I speak.
Oh boy.
It turns out that he's from inner Switzerland, which is even more... Okay.
Yes,
We'll move on.
those ones at the top of the mountains. I was born in the mines.
It's fine.
I only know
Probably like
darkness.
Godwin's
I've
a
got
minute
all
30,
night. It's
and
fine.
we still haven't...
I've got all night. It's cool. We don't have to do the topic. It's cool.
Would you miss the part where I had the shot? Tonight's gonna be old-fashioned, Micah.
Oh boy.
Interrupting,
All right.
talking over,
Well.
railing.
Oh my god. I'm gonna murder you both. We're gonna get to 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna start because
gonna be
you
great
guys
when we
just are
go back to
clearly
live.
chit chatty. You guys are
And
like
then,
hens.
in the
I
middle
don't
of an
even.
episode, Sarah just literally murders me, and then
Mhm.
Sarah and Phil go off and continue the podcast to mass success.
All right. Welcome to Isn't It Obvious? I'm your host, Sera, and joining me are two assholes who just won't shut the fuck up sometimes. Micah, mostly,
Hey, I'm
and
cold
Phil.
over cold tonight.
It's good to be here.
Ugh,
I'm just happy to be here.
I don't know some days. Topic. It's a little wordy. I don't know if I'm going to be able to condense it right or say it right, but just hear me
Please be
out and we'll
sure.
see if
Please
I
be
can...
sure.
Oh my god, I hate you so much. Isn't it obvious that there needs to be a standard of truth? Like, there needs to be a way, like some kind of regulation on what is trustworthy as truth. I guess my problem is, like, there's so many, like, technologies that are being developed right now that allow us to do deep fakes, and sometimes there's information coming to us that are pseudoscience or legit just made up. Well, I guess pseudoscience is made up, but there needs to be a way to, like, verify that the information we are receiving is legitimate and from a trustworthy source.
As in true or factual? Because those are different things.
Explain.
Well, Phil, you are a person of faith to some extent.
Correct.
So, the concept of an all-powerful deity that created everything is a truth to you. Show me a fact that he exists.
Philip gestures generally everything.
That's not proof.
That is not proof.
That is not proof.
So, it is
Nice
true
try,
to
though.
you that God exists, but factually, you can't prove God exists.
No, see, that doesn't work. Truth and fact are, I guess,
They're different.
maybe not. They might be. I don't know if I agree
They're
with that,
similar,
but-
not synonymous. You can't interchange the two.
Yeah, but, like, I don't think, like, one person's truth, in quotes, is another person's lie. Like, I don't think that's a real thing. I think that's just a word we're assigning here with an incorrect definition.
If somebody
You
believes
can
something, that
say all
belief can
day-
be true.
Yeah, a belief can be true, but it might not be.
Right, but it's true to the believer.
But no, it's not true to the believer.
How's
It's
it not
just-
true to the believer if the believer thinks it's
they-
true?
No, it's
not
it's not
factual
true
to the believer,
believer.
but the believer believes it's true.
They do believe it's true, but it doesn't mean it is true.
This reminds me of the joke in The Simpsons where Bart has like a lie detector on his head or something like that, and then he's like, "Lisa's stupid," something like this, and then like
Yeah, he's telling the truth.
it rings as true, and then Homer's like, "Sorry, Lisa, it's true." Like it's just like the wrong concept of what the result is. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
No, that's
No, Bart was telling the truth.
no.
Yeah,
Well,
he was
true-
telling what he thought was true.
He was telling what he felt was true, but that doesn't make it true.
It makes it true to him, and perception is reality on an individual basis.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it true. That
But
just
it's true. It
makes
doesn't
it
make
something
it
he
factual.
believes.
Something being true doesn't
no,
make it factual.
it's not. It isn't even true. He just believes it.
But that
He
is
thinks
his
that it's-
truth.
No, it isn't. He just thinks it's true.
I will sidestep truth versus fact and ask another question about this, where do you think that truth it can be measured by units? Because some people would say that it's very subjective. Well, you could still measure subjective things by, a gradient, like pain, for instance. A nurse would be like, what are you on the pain chart? You can't
Which
really
is
add a
pseudoscience
unit
and
of pain,
subjective.
right? But
Yeah,
people
it's-
have to try. Do you think that's what you would measure it by? Like, oh, well, you got to have a scale or something?
I don't think truth is a scale. I think it just is or it is not.
But isn't that
Yeah.
Like the factual basis? Like a fact is or isn't?
No, truth is or isn't. You might think something is a fact, but you could be wrong. You can be wrong.
Correct.
You're allowed to be wrong.
If I misunderstand a fact, what I believe is non-factual.
Yeah, and therefore it isn't true.
But if I believe in a God that has no fact, I can still believe in it, and that
you can,
is true.
But you can't prove God doesn't exist either at that point. It's unfortunately the burden of proof is on the believer. But
very funny Twitter
again,
thread
not the
about
point.
burden of proof. And
there's some things I will agree you cannot. There's just some things we are not equipped to determine.
I think it is true that Zack Snyder's Justice League is better than the original Justice League. That doesn't make it factually accurate.
Well, that doesn't make it true either.
It's true to me.
No, it's not. You just believe it to be.
So then it's true to me.
Whatever you. Oh God. Okay.
There's also another problem too, where people would say something like it's black and white, like the truth is black and white. And I will just rip this from the Big Bang Theory, where comic book artist guy, he says something like, oh, well, that's only slightly wrong. And then the protagonist is like, slightly wrong? Wrong is either... like it's either correct or it's not correct. There's nothing in between.
Well,
yeah, wrong is a definitive statement.
Right, and then he's like, no, like you can, say,
right and wrong is different. Morality is different than truth and false.
The idea of, I mean, I'm butchering this because we can't use the internet, but the idea was like, well, you could say it would be slightly wrong to say that a tomato is a fruit, but it would be very wrong to say a tomato is a suspension bridge. And then like it kind of puts
but a tomato is a fruit.
Yeah, I mean the whole idea is kind of silly, right?
Anyway.
But like it puts the you're relativity here. You can say, oh, it's you're either right or you're wrong, and it's like, or you're either correct or you're incorrect.
You can say that,
yeah, but
and sometimes you won't know if you are right or wrong. Sometimes there are things you just don't know, and that is okay to not know. It's just in the grand scheme of things outside of our beliefs and outside of our perceptions, there is a truth. There is what is actually reality. That doesn't necessarily mean we're equipped to be able to know that reality, or we have yet to discover that reality.
Wait, you've talked to the lizard people on the moon?
I mean, we all know I'm a lizard, right? Like by now.
Yeah, you're...
So yes.
You're like their plant, right?
It's okay. You know what? I really hate it when people like think like just because you're a lizard, you know all lizards.
What are you talking about? You where do you go every third Thursday of the month?
Holy shit.
Is that not a lizard meeting?
First of all, that is so true.
It feels like
okay.
it, let me tell you.
The other thought too is that when you mention working realities or realities of what we can experience in engineering, they would say something like everyone is wrong. We're just working on the least wrong solution. Like so, Newton's laws were okay, except for when it gets to extreme edge cases like general relativity or special relativity.
We're constantly discovering new things.
Right.
We're adding more variables.
Wait, are you saying we're stupid
expand
monkeys?
our understanding of what is true?
Micah, I'm just gonna railroad you, so just bear that in mind.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, two roads cross. Which one are they going to diverge to? No, the idea that there is this model of the universe that is true isn't even incorrect as far as I know, right? Because there are different competing models that work well in its own scale, but they don't work well or they don't play well on the other. So the macro and micro scale. So like you could say something like, well, quantum physics, for example, does a really good job at explaining how really super small things work. And you can get great predictions out of them, and they're going to be very reliable. And we have wonderful observations that our predictions are going to be true. Like we can anticipate what the next action is going to be, but they're absolutely useless at a larger scale outside of like an atom. So then you could also argue that, well, Newtonian physics works really well, or even like physics that approaches the speed of light, but they're absolutely useless on like probability theory. So like when you say, oh, this is true or not true, even from like a science perspective, where those boundaries meet, we have no answer for them. At least no answers that we can actually test. Yet.
Because right now we're still working with models that might not be perfect.
Right. And it may be the case that we'll never figure it out.
That's also true. Well, that's also probably true.
Well, I'm being very serious that I don't think...
I think you are, yeah. I'm not taking you seriously.
That
that is true. Micah has
no
idea.
No, I mean, there won't ever be a case where you'll have a model that can explain everything that we can see, touch, and feel. Like it
Well,
doesn't
now you're just being a Debbie Downer.
No,
I mean, we
I'm
probably
just
won't
saying-
make it. We probably won't make it to that
the
point.
grand
But
theory of unifying everything.
Right. I would say that these are just great models. Like they're good at predicting things, but I wouldn't consider them to be like. I don't want to get into the different discussion of causality and do we actually have free will. However, sidestepping that, like even at the most basic level of what we understand physics to be, how do you even reconcile the truth in that? So like I like the idea that there is some I'm not going to talk about C.S. Lewis's work, that he also agrees that there is a standard of truth, that we're getting closer to it, and you
well,
do that
we're
by relativity.
approaching it. We're always approaching it. I don't know if we'll ever make it to that point, but that's an existential question. My real question really was more in line with how can we create a standard so we as consumers, say, can recognize that this is from a trusted source.
Better education.
As far as news and consuming like foods and medicines and things like that. Like we should be able to not be tricked and scammed into bullshit things that are clearly pseudoscience or even just when we're told by, we'll say even a trusted source something, and they are just using the circus that is politics and what people want to hear. Like right now, news is not necessarily news, like TV news. It's just what'll get us the most ratings. Who do we have to pander to get more viewers so we can get our ad revenue? That's what news is becoming. And I don't know if there's a way to make it not so partisan.
If you want to have that, one thing to bring back is the fairness doctrine. In order for you to have an FCC license to broadcast, if you are bringing up political issues, you have to give the same amount of time to the opposing viewpoints.
I would say that would be a good thing for politicking truths or politicking like messaging. But there's also other things that aren't necessarily politically...
Like Dr. Oz on his 5 show a week brings on whatever health craze, regardless how there's very little scientific data
I'm thinking of,
supporting it.
Yeah, I'm thinking of health crazes or even religious things. Like, do you have to give the same amount of time to every religion? Because that would be very difficult. There's a lot of religions out there. Like, so if you're going to put a story...
But religions aren't debating what happens to everyone. Religions only care about what happens to their believers. So that is not something that applies to everyone.
True.
But except for Catholics, but okay.
Except for Catholics. Because the Pope is in the news a lot.
Well, and...
making statements about things.
And getting more egg on his face, which he was supposed to be the good Pope. We already had the Nazi in there.
There's no such thing. I'm sorry. There's no such thing as a good Pope.
Because when you give a single person a lot of power, they're going to do bad things with it. History has pointed it out so many times.
It's not just that, though. When you have an institution that is literally supporting the hiding of so much...
Child rape.
Well, child rape. Yeah, well, child rape and...
Don't hold back. The Archdiocese doesn't need you to self-censor yourself.
Well, I was going to say child fucking, but rape sounds way more serious.
Child sexual assault? Is that better?
No, rape. It was rape. It's rape.
Well, that's my...
basically, the fucking, hide the pee cup game, with the
different parishioner sets that can make more effective. It's really great. Real smart. I mean...
They just take them from places where they get in trouble and they put them into places where no one's heard of them, and then they continue to repeat the cycle of abuse. Yep, actually it is. It's very similar.
We're going to take this a couple of steps backwards again. So I'm just going to say, let's
I
close
just
the
put up my
Catholic door,
Antifa flag, man.
and let's open up a different door. We're gonna leave the Catholic door shut for a while because
with us, come on,
we all know that.
I mean, it's not just the Catholic Church.
Give us another Christian sect that has 1 billion followers and is rife with corruption.
1 billion? Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
Islam's not Christian.
Islam doesn't have a central hierarchy. They
do.
But they don't have a Vatican City. They don't have a holy see.
That's true, but they do have
because they reckon. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say they do have they have their Jerusalem, their Mecca. They have
but that doesn't have a central.
They do have. Well, it's not like they have a pope.
Yeah,
at least I don't think they do. But they have a body of leaders, so they do have an organization. It's not like they aren't similar.
I would say that they're clever enough to realize that having a pope-like figure is not a good idea. Mm-hmm. I will just give it that much. I'll give them that much credit.
Although, an imam versus anti-imam would be kind of funny. Like pope versus anti-pope.
Anti-pope.
The anti-popes.
Who's that?
Anyway, let's
was in the spread of Rome.
Oh God.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on.
I have a 37-page presentation.
Okay, that's going to be the next episode called
Why
"Don't Watch This" or "Listen to This."
Isn't it obvious? I wasted 2 Saturdays.
I'm gonna just go ahead with this story. I was talking with a relative about, 10 years back, about how, it was actually around that time, and they said, well, the president is terrible. And I'm like, okay, like, you have my attention, please continue. And then they're like, he wants to establish the Ministry of Truth or something like that. And like, that's a page straight out of 1984.
Yeah, that is some weird fashy bullshit.
And I'm like, I was like, all right, I mean, like, please continue, like, go on. And they're like, well, if you have like an organization that explains what truth is, like, you should probably like not accept that as truth, right?
Yeah,
like
if you say I am the authority, everyone's first reaction is no, you're not.
I doubt that. Yes, then you should be absolutely skeptical. But
so it's like it defeats the purpose. They might as well call it the propaganda wing or something, right?
That's what Trump tried to do.
I mean, that is basically what that would turn into, which is why I'm not sure how we would do it in a way that would work, because like obviously it can't be like a agency or a government agency of truth, in quotes. It has to be some other way we can verify.
Education. Start young and start showing them as like a 6-7-year-old.
Yes,
how lies can be so insidious.
I mean, yes, you can teach skepticism, to not necessarily believe everything you read on the internet, not necessarily believe everything you're told. Like great things like freaking teaching your kids Santa Claus and then twisting that lie and saying, "Ha, I was lying to you for the first 5 to 10 years of your life."
Showing us for that episode, fellas.
Wait, Santa isn't real?
Oh boy. And
why am I a good boy all year long then?
You're not, though.
No, I'm a pretty shitty man, so.
You're not either of those things. But that's what I mean is there has to be, because I mean there's so many scam artists and there's so many people who are like trying to sell you their freaking snake oil.
Then you make snake oil not profitable. You get rid of capitalism. Then there's no incentive to
try
to husk people out of their dollars.
It's not just that, though.
On shit that you know is a lie and is false.
It's not just capitalism, though, in this case. I mean, I would argue that there are a lot of examples you could have, and I wouldn't be able to defend my argument on that.
Continue.
But I would say that in some cases, an example from the liberal side of us drinking the Kool-Aid, sorry to say it that way, things that we don't question is something like the crime rates committed by men are much greater than women. So therefore, there's something going on, and we need to address this. We want the crime rates of men to be the same as the crime rates of women. It's like, wait, that doesn't...
No, we just need to have more women commit crimes.
No.
Right, it's like...
Ideally, we just want crime to go away.
Right, but this is kind of like the... What? Like, I understand generally what's going on here. Of most of our prisoners, they are mainly men. Of those that commit violent crime, they're usually men. Of those that commit crime of the sexual nature, they're most likely men.
You're right, we should just have mass castrations of all men at the age of 15. It was a bold strategy, Phil.
The conclusion that I was jumping to. So, but
2 votes.
Okay, so the idea
3
where
votes.
if you're a liberal, you would take this as, oh well, we need to do a better job of educating men different choices. Maybe they need a jobs program or training or better access to education or anything that absolves them from personal responsibility, because it's clearly the system that's making men a lot more violent than women. We need to have some type of system update here to help men not commit these crimes. I think if you're a conservative, this is kind of like night and day reasoning, where it's like, no, men are just more prone to violence. They're just programmed that way. I'm not arguing either case, but this is kind of how I see both sides, where they would say, oh, no, men are just kind of like through history of mankind. They're just
they have bad
dumb
days
when they're young.
They have less to lose.
They
have less to lose, and therefore they are more likely to take risks.
They're also more aggressive. They have different hormones, and
they don't make babies, so they can't propagate the species. So one could argue from a evolutionary level that the fact that males are quicker to react and use force is an evolutionary trait.
There's also the concept of you can get a lot of males and throw them in a battlefield. They're kind of, like you said, Zerglings.
Men are typically, we're a dimorphic species. Men are, on average, bigger and stronger than women, so they are more likely to grow up with more respect for their boundaries, and they're more likely to get their way using force, whereas a woman will more likely rely on negotiation.
That has more societal implication than physical
Not
evolution.
necessarily, though. It's physical evolution, though, too, because when you aren't strong enough to defend yourself, you have to use your words.
There's also this concept of where, and they had this in Uber stats, where men make more money on Uber and Lyft and these other type of services than women do.
Wait, by like tip?
And
because
just generally more.
I thought it was a flat rate for whatever.
Yeah, well,
driver
that's the thing, and the reason why is because men drive faster. So in between picking up customers, they drive 7% faster than women, or something like this.
That could be part of it. It also could be that men also just take more jobs. Like some women Uber drivers might be more selective on who they take.
This could, I mean, there's a lot of it's.
Because the risk is, like, let's be honest, higher for potential assaults.
Another one that a conservative may argue would be like, well, it's clear that when it comes to bullying, men are a lot more frontal attack, like brute strength. I'm going to pick on those that are weaker, where women are psychologically tormenting others. Like
true.
Mean Girls.
Like I said, they use their words.
And a woman can psychologically torment their victim, man or woman, and it's very MP damage is significant. And so, but for men, it's usually just like silverback gorillas, right? Like this is what I'm saying.
They are the barbarian.
I can't wait till someone makes a video game out of how we describe rules for life.
Oh man.
Okay.
We're gonna get so many, like, not that we have any listeners, but we're gonna get so many.
Also, thank you.
Like you're wrong. You're wrong.
The only part of this podcast that I was looking for, if we ever hit the ground, was like what the fan community would make, because there is amazing stuff fan communities do for content creators.
Yeah.
Are they gonna make effigies of
We're
us
not.
and burn
We're
them?
not good enough
For
for
me.
that. Sorry.
You two are safe.
Okay, here's my
Oh,
argument.
well, I was gonna
right?
be the god, so
When it comes
Thank
to
you.
the truth of this, right, and
I know my
I'm
role.
just trying to extrapolate what I believe conservatives and liberals say because we went political. I would argue that for the liberal side of it, they think it's a system issue, and that both men and women are basically victims of a system, and that's how we're going to address this. And from a conservative side, they're going to look at it like, oh no, it's very clear, it's just evolution, right? It's just men are like this and women are that.
Yeah. Well, just because there's a reason doesn't mean we can't. Well, anyway.
well, the silly thing is to diverge science from society. Society doesn't have scientific constraints on it because you create a society.
Yeah, but it evolves similarly to a species would.
Right, but you can also disregard. There are points in our history where matriarchy was the reigning power.
Like we can disregard our urges and our instincts as evolution, like whatever is evolutionarily based on our psyches or whatever.
You have an appendix, don't you?
Yeah, but we can disregard it. We can remove it,
Exactly.
and it's gone. Yes, so it's similar.
My question to you, Sarah, then is like, of that silly question I promoted of like men in prison and driving, making more money in Uber and bullying or something like this, what would be the truth to that? And how would you convince the other half that that's true?
I wouldn't make a statement on what is true because I don't know.
But
I guess I suppose what I'm really getting at would be like, you can report facts, you can report true things. Like, this is a fact. This is true that men are making more as Uber drivers. We don't know what the reason is. We suspect it might be this factor, and this factor.
But aren't those testable factors?
Some of them might be, like
The driving fast, the selective
the driving
job,
fast,
application, or whatever.
Yep. There are things that you could test or put into like a data cruncher.
Also, can we establish Uber's a bad actor in this because they don't care about the safety of their drivers in a lot of these situations? So they reward people who drive fast and take all jobs over those that could potentially be more selective for their safety?
It's possible, but then again, the system allows people to go over the limit without always getting caught. How many times do people go over the limit of the speed limit? It's super subjective in the States about how fast you can go.
Hell, I was in 2 high-speed chases. That is not a joke.
Okay.
I don't know. Micah's a liar, so we don't know for sure.
And that is not a lie.
that one isn't a lie.
In one of them I was driving, and one of them I was not. And trust me, the was not was way more frightening.
we need...
Okay.
All right, we can't let that go. All right, Micah, you're gonna have to explain if you can,
You're gonna have
or
a
if you
story
want.
time. Get the popcorn out.
Alrighty. Get your popcorn, kids. We'll go back to the great year of 2008.
Don't give people years. What if they're looking for you still?
They won't? I was just a white dude in the back of a car, and that was
Fair
why
enough.
they tried to steal from us.
All right, continue.
So, being way back in 2008, I was in college, and I was a stoner.
That's okay.
Okay.
Not necessarily mutually exclusive. But
No. Just as the time. So, in order to actively be a stoner, one must purchase marijuana. On a Saturday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, most drug dealers are sleeping. So, you kind of have to branch out, and you might take some risks in order to get stoned at 2 p.m. on a Saturday, which was your plan since like Thursday when you ran out. You had a sober Friday, and it's going to make that Saturday high so much better. So, with a buddy had a contact. Contact was in questionable financial engagements, selling harder stuff than weed. But it was my friend, had his contact. That contact had another contact. That contact agreed. Me and my friend, two white people, showed up. Whew, there's a complexity difference. Okay, yeah. All right, we get try and buy in quarter, hand over $150. We get less than a 16th.
Wow.
And dude says, the contact of a contact was like, I just got to stop by my spot and get some more. I'll be right back.
Bullshit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So me, my buddy, and buddy's contact are sitting in the car. Contact's contact is like, all right, I'll be right back. Contact's like, oh no, he's trying to fucking jack us. We're following him from the gas station right off the highway onto another highway, onto a third highway, pulling off at a gas station that I knew, other funny reasons, and out of the car, speaking their native language. I'm sitting in the middle of the back seat with two of Contact's buddies that are freaking the fuck out, and I'm just, I know this gas station. Oh, they're yelling. And the two people I'm next to are looking, freaking out. We end up just getting jacked. We lost that money. It was gone, poof, out the window.
Well, lesson learned.
Oh, yeah. Never dealt with that contact again.
Yeah, it's like only deal with people you trust.
Well, it's hard to do that when you start.
And the cost of taking a risk, sometimes you lose.
Hey, I went 150 miles an hour on a major highway in the metropolitan area we live in at 2 o'clock on a Saturday.
Oh my
in a 1992 Corsica.
That sounds awful. I'm so sorry.
I was shocked a wheel didn't fall off.
That's good engineering.
Old Chevys. Pretty good. The second one was a real drunk day, and when merging onto a highway that would divert off to another highway, there was a high-speed chase that I just wandered right into.
Oh, my.
The 15 cop cars flashing should have given me a clue, but it was 2 a.m. on Halloween, and I was drunk. Just driving through and looking. And just I would rather be a known obstacle than trying to change lanes right now. So I'm just going to maintain. And then they all went to the eastbound highway when I went to the northbound highway. And the exit to the bar we're going to go drink at more because, again, smart choices.
Oh, my God.
Was the first exit.
Should be dead.
Yeah. One of the three passengers commented on it.
Wow.
The other two either ignored it and didn't want to talk about it or oblivious because we were all pretty plastered.
Oh my God. Choices were made here and they were not good.
No. But very few good choices are made with good decisions. Very few good stories are made with good decisions.
That's true.
Well, I'm going to set my popcorn bowl aside.
You didn't even touch it.
We're going to get back.
You put M&Ms in it and all.
I mean, I do have M&Ms here on my desk, but they do not go well with beer, so there will not be any M&M's had. How do we determine truth? Because I feel like Micah just lied to us. How do we make sure that this is a true story?
Well, I was also gonna add in. There's a lot to unpack here, but the first one is I did not at one point believe that Micah was not telling the truth. I believe Micah for sure 100% is telling the truth. And that it never even crossed my mind to even question it. So
you're also Catholic, so
I mean, maybe that's the problem too, is that
Did you notice how it was vague enough but left in important clues, specifically a 1992 Corsica?
I mean, in my brain, I think that this is true, but now that
probably
Micah is
mostly true.
Toying with me, I don't know. But the problem with this story is that at no point did my brain ever suggest that he was lying. It doesn't even there's no even dice to roll to be hey, do a perception check or insight check.
Yeah, this was totally passive perception.
Perception.
Oh.
How much have you had to drink already?
Why? Plead the fifth.
Okay.
So, just the fifth.
Hold on, I have to go drive and get into another high-speed chase tonight, so...
Please don't. Please don't. No one do that. That's just a bad idea all around.
No, these are cautionary tales.
They are cautionary tales. So, I mean, I guess you took one for the team, but still, don't do this, children.
But
don't do
Sarah,
this.
are you arguing that like people should always be skeptical no matter what people say?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. Okay, so I'm not saying that you shouldn't give someone the benefit of the doubt. I've had interesting conversations with friends and family members who have claimed certain things have happened to them. And for the most part, I'm willing to believe them and give them the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes some of the things they'll say to me, I'm like, well, maybe that happened, or maybe you're having, like, because I know false memories are a thing. They exist. People make shit up all the time. Sometimes they think something happened to them, or something did happen to them, but they remembered it differently than what actually was the reality of it. So a lot of times I will, on the face of things, give people the benefit of the doubt. I will say, you know, that sucks that happened to you. I'm so sorry. You know, and I truly do feel that way. Like that, if that is what happened, that is awful and that should not have happened and that's unfair, whatever. But at the same time, there are some instances where I will hold my peace as far as wholeheartedly delving into full-on belief, and I'm gonna start a crusade on behalf of this person because, you know, whatever they suffered was so awful, or something like that. Like I'm not one to necessarily act on something I don't know without a secondary source, I suppose, is what I'm saying. Like I need more than just the one person telling me what happened.
But you could have situations, much like the shooting that happened in Atlanta recently. Someone found that...
This could be any shooting at this point. Who knows when this airs?
Yeah.
It could be any shooting, but yes, go on.
Nation states how it can't solve this problem in nation where problem only exists. But of 75% of the victims were Asian women.
Yep.
And when you look at that fact, as that is a fact, it seems like it was a hate crime. But the person just said he had a sex addiction and was removing temptation.
Addiction?
What'd I say?
I don't know. Addition?
Temptation.
Sure. Sex addiction. Why not?
We knew what you meant.
Yeah. Jesus, why can I not talk?
Too much to drink. Too many high-speed chases.
I guess. So, sex addiction was the reason why... Sorry, I'm very sex positive, so...
Just more, yeah. Well, good for you. I'm glad.
Hey.
Someone
but
should be in this.
The fact that if you have... someone posted on Twitter a supposed Facebook post from the killer, and it was filled with all this anti-Asian propaganda, was backdated, and was disseminated across Twitter quickly, because it fit a narrative that was going slightly contrary to what was happening early into this investigation of why he did it, which I think is losing the forest through the trees, because he still murdered 8 people, and that should be the end of that conversation, regardless of what the impetus was.
I mean, okay, but I still agree that I still think it's important to know why someone does a crime.
Right, but to the point of the truth, that post went viral, and that justified that it was a hate crime.
It
was racially motivated from the get-go, even though it was a clearly faked item.
Question, was it a faked item? Yeah, that's the question.
The picture was off-centered,
someone
and it
photoshopped it
properly, yeah.
See, that drives me crazy.
But that could be the second source if it's on something like Twitter, where if anybody gets a hook into something, they can just retweet it, and that goes out to tens of thousands of people. Then you have your second source.
Okay, but it has to be a second reliable source, and that's the problem is that it's so easy to Photoshop something and make it appear to be one thing. Like you can take photographs of a person in different angles at different times and give a story a completely different narrative just based on a single photograph. Someone was making comparisons on Reddit, like they do, with like the Pope and on Reddit. Yeah, well, no, they were making a Photoshop comparison, like, or just photos and articles or something, and then, like, someone had mentioned, like, oh, look at the difference between the Pope and Obama and the Pope and Trump, and see how he's scowling at Trump and he's friendly with Obama. Well, okay, that's one picture that tells one narrative, but you can easily find other photos where it's the exact opposite.
Wait, so you're saying human beings have to, 1, be patient, 2, let a story develop without commenting on it, and 3, not have biases?
The third one there is impossible. I'm afraid that people are still going to have their own biases, but I think it would be a good idea to be patient and wait and see what other things develop, what other evidence comes in. I don't think, now that doesn't always work in every situation, but wouldn't it be like just better to not be so reactive to something like stated that okay maybe is true, but let's wait until we have all the evidence, all the facts?
No, because that
More
hot
facts.
take gets cold real quick. And
I
we
don't
live
know.
in a world of just hot takes. We don't care about depth anymore. We have reached peak materialistic shallowness with the glorious interconnectedness of the internet. We're just using it for all the bad things.
Well, I guess I feel like there just needs to be, I don't know, more patience and more people who will see something like that photoshopped Facebook post, whatever propaganda crap or whatever that they were spreading around by about this killer to make it seem like it was racially motivated. People who can be like, no, that's clearly photoshopped, and here's how I know this.
It has the big Ministry of Truth stamp on it.
Kind of like how Wikipedia is edited. There are editors and there are people who like go in and like make edits. And like, don't get me wrong, there's definitely people out there who are actively putting in stuff that is
Stephen
wrong
Colbert killed an elephant with his bare hands or something like that.
Stuff like that, yeah. But there's also like the people who are like, no, this is wrong, and here are the facts, and here are my sources. Citation needed. Like
Do you think that Wikipedia is a legitimate source for research material?
I think it is a legitimate source to find other legitimate sources for your research.
Phil?
I wouldn't use it as research.
Yeah, I wouldn't use it like in a paper, but
no,
you could.
It's not. I mean, depending on what level of research you're doing, but I think
but on
it'd be
any,
laughed
isn't Wikipedia itself kind of the common man's amalgamation of knowledge?
I would say for common discussions, or like say you're creating a trivia thing for your friends and you just need trivia questions, you can go on Wikipedia and be like, yeah, this seems factual-ish. That's fine. We'll use that. I think that's okay. But if you're writing like a scientific paper or something about a subject, then no, you probably want like peer-reviewed journals and stuff. So like you can go to Wikipedia for like the subject and maybe like look into what they used as their sources.
So we have
like,
two tiers of information. We have the peer-reviewed, quote, professional view, and then the Wikipedia, quote, common view. So you already have two levels of information knowledge.
Yes, but like sometimes the Wikipedia sources are peer-reviewed from like journals. Like they will take information directly from a source.
So does that not make that Wikipedia page legitimate? If from their sourcing, whether or not you look into where that sourcing is.
The source, the comment that is sourced, or the phrase or whatever that is sourced and cited, then that could be legitimate. Obviously,
so you're cap
if you're doing your due diligence
tag on Wikipedia.
If you're doing your due diligence, you will click on the little citation link, find the article, and hope it's in English, and then read it to get full context. But most people aren't going to do that. It's there, right? So you could, in theory, do that. And I feel like there are people out there who are weirdly nitpicky about this. And I feel like they're doing freaking honest, necessary work. I appreciate the Wikipedia editors who go out and be like, oh, no, this is factual, and here are our sources, and here's how we know this. And then people who are like, Stephen Colbert wrestled an alligator or an elephant or whatever with his bare hands. And
it was an alligator.
Here's the source, whatever. And here's the source, and it just links to a video of Colbert claiming he did it. Like, I think that's pretty clear that that's not legit.
It's actually
right?
Stephen Colbert wrestling a baby elephant while holding a baby crocodile in the other hand, strangling it as well.
He's not actually wrestling it. He's just posing as in a photo.
No, he's murdering these animals. He's a very cruel man.
I feel like that's wrong, and I feel like I need a citation.
Did I tell you guys how I got into 2 different car chases in my life?
Oh my god. I don't know if I believe anything you say anymore.
I believe Micah. That's the problem.
And this is the problem with America.
Oh my god, here we go.
Half of it is suspect of me as they should be. The other half of it blindly follows, which is so frightening, Phil.
I know.
But you still give me inspiration that I can be a cult leader someday.
You're welcome.
We all have our aspirations. Anyway. Oh yeah, let's not forget the sea turtle cult. Shout out to our sea turtle cult.
Phil is not in the know of the show.
Followers.
That's
well, someday we'll fill you in. We'll fill you in.
And God, that's the end of this episode. So
take me out back. All right. Well,
our Phil Phil pun quota has been met.
I don't think we've answered my question though.
Because it's a difficult fucking question.
It is. I apologize.
The answer to your question: we need to instill more cynicism.
You know what the answer is?
We need to have harder research methods, and we need to teach people to be more patient.
We need to stay skeptical and be all right with not knowing everything.
But I know everything, Sarah. Everything.
Micah's a liar. Micah's a liar. Anyway, thank y'all for joining us.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.